The rain-soaked streets of Boston glistened under the streetlights. But I barely noticed as I stood frozen outside the cafe, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. Through the fogged-up window, I saw him, Elliot. My Elliot, laughing with someone new, his hazel eyes crinkling the way they used to when he looked at me. 5 years ago, we were everything. Now, I was just a ghost haunting the edges of his life, invisible and bleeding. It was autumn, the kind of crisp New England season where the air smelled of damp leaves and possibility. 5 years ago, we were 20, reckless, and in love, sneaking kisses behind the oak trees in the common, our initials carved into a bench we claimed as ours. Elliot was my first everything, first love, first heartbreak, first person who made me believe I could be enough. We were two boys from different worlds, me, Caleb, the shy art student with paint-stained fingers, and him, the charming law student with dreams bigger than the Boston skyline. But love doesn't care about differences, or so I thought. We built a life together in our tiny Back Bay apartment, filled with late-night talks, shared coffee mugs, and promises of forever. Until the accident. It was a drunk driver, a rainy night, and a split second that stole him from me. Not his life god. No, but his memory. The doctors called it retrograde amnesia, a cruel twist that erased the last 6 years of his life, including every moment we shared. When he woke up in the hospital, he looked at me with polite confusion, like I was a stranger offering directions. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice soft but empty. I wanted to scream that I was the one who held him through panic attacks, who laughed with him over bad sci-fi movies, who loved him so fiercely it hurt. But I just whispered my name, and he nodded, like it meant nothing. For months, I tried to help him remember. I showed him our photos, played his favorite songs, even took him to our bench in the common. But every time, his smile was kind, distant, like he was humoring a desperate fool. His family, who never fully accepted us, urged me to let him go. "He's not the same Elliot," his mother said, her voice cold but not cruel. "You're holding on to a ghost." Eventually, I stopped visiting. I moved to a cramped studio in Cambridge, threw myself into my art, and tried to forget the boy who forgot me. But you don't forget a love like that. Not when every brushstroke on my canvas carried his face. Not when every song on the radio felt like a knife. So when I saw him in that cafe, laughing with a man I didn't know, it was like the world cracked open. He looked happier than I'd seen him since the accident. His new life was bright, untouched by the weight of our past. I should have walked away, but my feet carried me inside, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. "Caleb." His voice snapped me out of my haze as I stood awkwardly by the counter, clutching my coffee. He was standing now, his head tilted, that familiar smile tugging at his lips. "Hey, it's been a while, right?" A while. 5 years of love reduced to a casual greeting. I forced a smile, my throat tight. "Yeah, a while." He introduced me to Ryan, the man at his table, whose easy grin and confident handshake made me feel smaller than I already did. Ryan was everything I was: polished, self-assured, the kind of guy who fit into Elliot's new world. They were colleagues, Elliot explained, working together at a law firm downtown. He didn't mention me, not as his ex, not as anything. Just Caleb, a guy he used to know. We made small talk, the kind that feels like walking on glass. He asked about my art, and I mumbled something about a gallery show I'd barely prepared for. He nodded, his eyes warm but empty, like he was seeing me for the first time. Ryan excused himself to take a call, leaving us alone. And for a moment, it was just us, like it used to be. I wanted to grab him, shake him, beg him to remember the nights we danced in our kitchen, the promises we made. But all I said was, "You look good, Elliot." "Thanks," he said, his smile softening. "You too. You should come by the firm sometime. We could catch up. Catch up. Like we were old classmates, not soulmates." I nodded, knowing I'd never go, and left the cafe before the tears could fall. Back in my studio, I collapsed onto the couch, surrounded by half-finished paintings that screamed his name. My phone buzzed a text from my friend Mia, inviting me to a gallery event where I could network, maybe even sell a piece. "You need to move on, Caleb," she'd told me 100 times. But how do you move on when your heart is stuck in a past someone else erased? I stared at a canvas in the corner, one I'd painted right after the accident, Elliot's face, half in shadow, his eyes searching for something he couldn't find. It was my best work, raw and aching, but I'd never shown it to anyone. Maybe it was time. The gallery event was in a sleek loft in the South End, filled with art snobs and cheap wine. I brought the painting, titled Stranger's Eyes, and hung it in a corner, hoping no one would notice. But they did. Collectors whispered about its emotion, its depth. A woman in a sharp blazer offered me $5,000 for it, more money than I'd ever seen. I hesitated. Selling it felt like selling him, like letting go of the last piece of us. But maybe that's what I needed to let go. As the night wore on, I noticed a familiar figure in the crowd. Elliot. He was there with Ryan, his arms slung casually around his shoulders. My heart sank, but I couldn't look away. He stopped in front of my painting, his brow furrowing as he studied it. For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes, recognition. Maybe. Or pain. But then Ryan said something, and he laughed, turning away. I stood there, invisible, bleeding quietly inside. The gallery lights felt too bright, exposing every crack in my composure as I watched Elliot walk away from my painting. I wanted to run after him, to demand he look closer, to see us in the brushstrokes. Instead, I gripped my wine glass and turned back to the crowd, pretending I wasn't unraveling. Mia found me later, her eyes sharp with concern. "You okay, Caleb? You look like you saw a ghost." I forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "Just tired," I lied. She didn't buy it, but she didn't push. Instead, she dragged me to meet a curator who raved about Stranger's Eyes, calling it hauntingly intimate. I nodded, mumbled thanks, but all I could think about was Elliot's face, the way he'd studied the painting like it was a puzzle he couldn't solve. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment he'd stood in front of my work, searching for something he couldn't name. Did he feel it? The weight of our past, the love we'd poured into each other. Or was it just a pretty picture to him? Nothing more. I got up and started painting again, my hands moving faster than my thoughts. This time, it was the two of us, standing under our oak tree in the common, our hands intertwined. But in the painting, his figure was fading, like he was slipping away even as I tried to hold on. The next morning, I got a call from the gallery. Strangers' eyes had sold not to the woman in the blazer, but to an anonymous buyer who paid double her offer. I should have been thrilled, but all I felt was dread. That painting was my heart, and now it was gone, just like him. The gallery manager mentioned the buyer had left a note, asking to meet me. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The meeting was set for a small coffee shop in Harvard Square, the kind of place where students argued about philosophy and baristas knew your order by heart. I arrived early, sketching nervously in my notebook, when I saw him walk in. Elliot. Alone. My breath caught as he spotted me and waved, that same oblivious smile lighting up his face. Caleb. Hey, he said, sliding into the chair across from me. I hope this isn't weird. I'm the one who bought your painting. I stared at him, my mind blank. You bought it. I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, leaning forward, his eyes bright with something I couldn't read. It's incredible, Caleb. It's like, I don't know, like it's telling a story I can't quite grasp. I had to have it. His words cut deeper than he could know. He was holding a piece of our love, and he didn't even recognize it. We talked for an hour, longer than we had in years. He told me about his life, now his job, his friends, his new apartment in Beacon Hill. He didn't mention Ryan, and I didn't ask. I told him about my art, about the gallery show, but I kept it surface level, afraid to let him see the mess inside me. Every time he laughed, it was like a dagger and a bomb all at once, familiar, yet painfully foreign. Do you ever feel like you're missing something? I blurted out, unable to stop myself. He paused, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Like what? He asked, his tone curious but guarded. I wanted to say me. Us. Everything we were. Instead, I shrugged. Just pieces of your life. Things you can't remember. His smile faded, and for a moment, he looked lost. Sometimes, he admitted, but I try not to dwell on it. The doctors say it's better to move forward. I nodded, my throat tight, and changed the subject. When we parted ways, he hugged me quick, casual, like a friend. But his scent, that mix of cedar and coffee, hit me like a tidal wave, dragging me back to our old apartment, our old life. I walked home in a daze, my heart screaming that this wasn't over. Not yet. Over the next few weeks, Elliot texted me. Small things at first, an article about a new art exhibit, a photo of the common in the snow. Each message was a lifeline and a wound, pulling me closer to him while reminding me of the distance between us. I started painting again, obsessively, each canvas a piece of our story. One showed us dancing in our kitchen. Another captured the night he proposed to me under the stars, a promise he'd forgotten. I didn't show them to anyone, not even Mia. They were for me, for us, for the love I couldn't let go. Then came the invitation. Elliot was hosting a small party at his apartment to celebrate a big case he'd won at work. You should come. His text read, bring your sketchbook. I'd love to see what you're working on. I stared at the message for an hour, torn between hope and fear. Going to his apartment, seeing his new life up close, felt like stepping into a minefield. But I couldn't say no. Not to him. The party was loud, crowded, filled with people who didn't know me or the history I carried. Elliot greeted me at the door, his smile brighter than the city lights outside. "Caleb, you made it," he said, pulling me into another hug. I wanted to melt into him, to pretend nothing had changed. But then I saw Ryan, standing by the window, watching us with a look I couldn't decipher. My stomach twisted. This was a mistake. The hum of the party pressed against my skin. A cacophony of laughter and clinking glasses that made me feel like an outsider in Elliot's world. I clutched my sketchbook, a shield against the strangers who didn't know I'd once been his everything. Elliot was everywhere pouring drinks, joking with colleagues, his laugh cutting through me like a blade. Ryan stayed close to him, their easy familiarity a silent scream that I didn't belong here. I wandered to a corner, flipping open my sketchbook to avoid small talk. My pencil traced the lines of our old apartment, the one we'd filled with dreams. A shadow fell over the page, and I looked up to find Elliot, his eyes curious. "Can I see?" he asked, sitting beside me. My heart raced as I hesitated, then handed him the book. He flipped through it slowly, his fingers lingering on the sketches of User Bench. "Our kitchen. Our promises. These are intense," he said, his voice soft. "Who are they about?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Someone I used to know," I said, the lie burning my tongue. He nodded, his brow furrowed, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "They feel familiar," he murmured, almost to himself. My breath hitched. Was it possible? Could some part of him, buried deep, still remember? Before I could speak, Ryan called him over, and the moment broke. The rest of the night was a blur. I made excuses to leave early, but Elliot stopped me at the door. "Caleb, wait. Can we talk? Alone?" His eyes were earnest, searching, and I couldn't say no. We stepped onto his balcony, the city sprawling below us, a sea of lights against the dark. "Your art," he started, his voice low. "It's like it's pulling at something inside me. I don't understand it, but I feel it." My heart pounded, hope and fear colliding. "Elliot," I said, my voice trembling, "those sketches are us. You and me. We were together for 5 years. We loved each other." The words spilled out, raw and desperate, years of silence breaking free. He stared at me, his face a mix of shock and confusion. I don't remember," he said, but his voice cracked, and I saw the struggle in his eyes. "I know," I said, tears burning. "But I do. I remember every second, every laugh, every promise. You were my world. Elliot." I reached for his hand, and for a moment, he didn't pull away. His fingers curled around mine, hesitant, like he was reaching for something he couldn't see. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I wish I could remember." We stood there, the city humming below, our hands linked in a fragile echo of what we'd lost. I wanted to kiss him, to beg him to try harder, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. "You don't have to remember," I said finally, my voice steady despite the ache. "Just let me keep loving you, even if it's from a distance." His eyes softened, and he squeezed my hand before letting go. I left his apartment that night, lighter but heavier, like I'd shed a weight only to pick up another. Over the next few months, we saw each other occasionally, coffee here, an art show there. He never remembered. Not fully. But there were moments when his smile felt like it was just for me, when his laugh carried a hint of the boy I'd loved. Ryan was still in his life, and I learned to accept it, to find peace in the small pieces of him I could still have. I kept painting, pouring my heart into canvases that told our story. One day, I got a package in the mail, a small, carved wooden heart, like the one on our bench. Inside was a note from Elliot. I don't know why, but this feels like it belongs to you. I held it, tears streaming down my face, and realized something. Love doesn't need memory to exist. It lives in the quiet spaces, in the way you carry someone in your heart, even when they've forgotten you. I went back to our bench in the common, the heart in my pocket, and sat where we'd once carved our initials. The tree above was bare now, winter settling in, but I felt warm. I wasn't a stranger to him. Not really. I was the boy who loved him, who would always love him, even if he only smiled at me like I was someone new. And that was enough. It had to be.